I genuinely think the world went downhill when McDonald's took away the $2 sausage McGriddle off the all-day menu. Genuinely. People used to be happier. Now what? It's like $4? You used to be able to go to McDonald's at 5:47 p.m. and get a nice little sausage McGriddle for dinner for $2. Now what? It stops at 10:30? This is why people are depressed. This is why people are anxious. If maybe we could waltz up to a McDonald's at 7 p.m. and order a sausage McGriddle for $2 again, like we used to be, people would be happier. I think it would solve a lot of issues.
Good morning, everyone. It's Saturday, which means it's time for yet another Salty Saturday morning. I am your host, Mr. Kadish. Get it right. And that young lady had two very large, good points that she made.
Yeah, she made me happy.
Wanted to open it up with that. That was actually Matt Vader's idea. How you doing today, Matt Vader?
I love her. I want to marry her. I want to.
I was going to say, I thought you were going to say it was his wife, and I'm going to be like,
no,
lucky dog.
I want to spend my life eating McDonald's sausage biscuits.
You could get yelled at for anything and be like, yeah, I'm sorry, babe. Just keep yelling at me.
I'll buy you a sausage biscuit, baby.
Go ahead.
I got a sausage biscuit right for you right now.
I really enjoy what's coming out of your mouth, even though I'm not really listening to it.
The more upset she gets, the more animated she gets. Yeah. So just like,
yeah.
But you know what? How much I hate your mother, and then she goes off for like another 20 minutes.
Yeah, but she's correct. She's absolutely right. You can't buy nothing anymore. Nothing's the same. Can't even go to McDonald's and spend less than $15 for a freaking hamburger and fries, and they don't have them on the menu all day.
Why would you want that nasty crap anymore? I don't know. I've gone like twice in the last year or so.
McDonald's is supposed to be there for a reason. It's supposed to be there when you're poor, you don't have any money, maybe your paycheck is tomorrow and you're almost out and you want to you got like $10 left and you want to eat. You know, they're broken, man. The whole world's going to shit, and can't even get a sausage biscuit anymore at 7 o'clock at night. I'm upset.
The world's broken.
She's 100% correct.
Man, welcome to Biden's America.
I know.
I want a goddamn sausage biscuit.
I know. Sausage biscuits rule.
Have you seen those posts on Twitter where it shows like the former dollar menu where you see all the stuff you can get for $1 at McDonald's, and it's like, this is what it cost us?
Yeah. Now it's 2 for $6.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
And he's here. He's queer. He is our gender non-binary shield against all things woke. Brian from the podcast.
You met him.
Cue the applause. Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you. Good to be here. I'm glad to be back. Sorry I missed last week. Or I think it was at least 2. No, this was just 1 week.
Just 1 week.
Yeah, glad to be back. 2. Feels like 2. Yeah.
Yes, you are irreplaceable, my friend. So
thank you.
Welcome back. And he's the man who's on everyone else's live stream, so why not ours? Tom Connors Jr. from Midnight's Edge. How you doing, buddy?
I'm a lot more exclusive than I used to be. Somebody has a very loud microphone, right?
Yeah, Crimson is getting a lot of white noise on his mic.
Oh, I think that's what it is.
Hot white
like Michael
noise.
Keaton.
Yeah, although with Google Gemini, it'll be a diverse type of noise out of Crimson's mic there.
I'm too white for Google Gemini.
Yeah, I allow all sorts of noise on my mics.
Yeah. Speaking of which, welcoming him back to the Salty Saturday stream is Krimsonrogue, everyone's favorite literary critic. Crimson, thank you so much for being here today. Always.
Thank you for having me.
All right. And want to give a big shout out to everyone who showed up in the chat. First of all, we had a little bit of a scheduling mishap yesterday where the live stream was scheduled for Friday instead of Saturday. My bad. But want to give a big shout out to Cheery Kane, who came for that misscheduled live stream and left some nice chats in the chat. We got Grand Blues Wendigo Cocho Dragon. We have Wendy Hunter. Always good to see you, Wendy. Danny's mom Penny is in the chat. Gary Banjo Sandwich Worthington. Really old movies. We have Major Chai Chai. Good to see you, Major Chai Chai. Always glad to have you here. We have Anthony Mark coming at us from the beach, I believe. Possibly not. I always get confused as to the New York landscape that he exists in. We got Keely Chow as well, and a bunch of other people in the chat. Thank you all for being here as we get started today. Real quick, just want to let everyone know that our goal for today is 10 new members during the course of the stream. So if you guys want to sign up for our members only content, be sure to do so today. We want to get 10 of those new membership subs. And also, you can give us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts. We're trying to get as many of those as possible so that we can apply to be officially accredited movie reviewers.
It's almost application time, isn't it?
It's almost application
time.
Man. March is the window.
That stamp of denial. It's going to be hilarious.
Yes, indeed.
Denied. You're
and
not
also, if you haven't joined our Discord yet, go to saltynorddiscord.com and check us out. You can also link your YouTube channel to your Discord account, and that way, when you become a member of the Salty Nerd Podcast channel, you get access to special member boards on Discord and other cool perks. So that's really fantastic stuff. And also, we have our first gifted sub of the day. By our good friend Culture Casino, who's gifted 5 Salty Nerd Podcast memberships. Thank you so much, Culture. Very generous. Those of you who have received those free gifted memberships, be sure to check out our members only playlist on our channel. There you'll find all of our previous members only content, and also be sure to check us out on Tuesday, not this Tuesday, but next Tuesday, for our members only live stream. So it should be a good time. All right, guys. Let's talk about some stuff that nobody but us really cares about. Just need to drop my markers here real quick.
I mean, I don't even care about most of the stuff we're going to talk about. So, it's okay.
Well, today we're talking about Hollywood shrinkage and all the people who are complaining.
I thought that was a problem I had.
Yeah.
No, I thought that was my problem too.
Hollywood's in the pool, dude. They're in the pool.
Yeah. It's all the people who are complaining that they can't find jobs anymore in Hollywood.
Oh, no.
And I know this is a real Cry Me a River scenario, but these are basically the actors who, during the Hollywood strike, they were living off savings, they were bussing tables, trying to wait it out for the 6 months and all that stuff, and they finally made it through, and they were like, "Oh, great, now we can start working again." And Hollywood's like, "No, you don't get to work again."
No.
And it's kind of interesting because basically what happened was during the actors' strike, all of production got shut down. So all of the TV shows that actors usually rely on to get cast in and make some money and stuff like that, those stopped production. And so once the actors' strike ended, Hollywood was like, well, we don't need to commission any new TV shows because the ones that we already commissioned from last year didn't get finished. And so they're going forward with the holdovers for the pilot season and the new TV season for this year, which means that they're not hiring anyone new because they already hired for those shows. And so all the actors who are reliant on TV gigs are just like, oh crap, we don't have any gigs going on. And this is trickling down to other stuff as well, like casting directors are basically having to find other forms of employment because nobody needs them to cast new parts in the TV season and stuff like that. But in addition to that,
this is where we need you want fries with that.
Yeah, exactly. But in addition to that, we also have situations where Hollywood studios are cutting back on their spending. And so in addition to not making any new TV stuff, they're also for, next year and stuff like that, they're not going to be making as much content anymore. And they're also looking for cost cutting measures, which means that they're cutting back on quote unquote series regular roles and making them featured regulars or something like that so that they don't have to pay the actors as much money. And so the actors who are getting gigs are actually making less money than the ones that, had it before the strike. So this is actually a very interesting thing. And before we get into it, just want to welcome Odin from ONB Reviews. Thank you for joining.
Odin!
Sorry, I'm late. The little guy didn't want to go down right away. So
Odin's son.
Yeah,
it's okay. We're just talking about how actors in Hollywood are pissed off that they're not getting any roles, and that Hollywood it doesn't look like that's going to change anytime soon because Hollywood is contracting with their stuff. But I want to throw this to Tom, because nobody is more knowledgeable about the inner workings of Hollywood than Tom Connors Jr. What's your take on this? Do you think that this is just basically reaping what they sowed because it was the worst timing for a strike in history, and they went full bore against the studios, and now that the studios are back, the studios are like, no, we're not hiring you guys?
Yeah, that's part of it. I mean, a lot of the stuff they asked for without thinking about the repercussions is also a big part of this between both the writers and the actors. And like you said, the studios are not going to spend the money they don't have right now. You've got 2.5 of the studios right now that are looking at selling or merging with others. Only 1 or 2 of them you could really argue are in really good shape. Yeah, this is not a good time for Hollywood. We're at a recession, and they're going to feel it just like everybody else. And sorry. I mean, look, as far as actors go, it's tough to feel sorry for them all the time. You get to do something that people wish they could do as a kid, you know, and you get paid to do it. And I've said it before, maybe 5% of actual actors have a career that is sustainable. And that's the, you know, so few and far between. You have like your big movie stars, and then you have your character actors. Outside of that, you're lucky if you work once or twice a year. So most of your life is bussing tables. So I don't know what they're complaining about. This is just par for the course. Unless it's just getting harder to bus tables, I guess. I don't know.
Well, it's not just the unemployed actors. It's basically like professional actors who've made their living doing this stuff. And
well, maybe they should yell at the studios for relying too much on superhero movies.
Well,
maybe.
What I took out of the article was that the majority of Hollywood are dependent on these things, like the pilot season and stuff. For these studios are supposedly making like 100+ of these pilots that never get picked up, but even though they don't get picked up, those actors and crew, they all still get their benefits and stuff, because that kicks in their benefits and their medical benefits and everything.
Yeah. And acting in one pilot can give you enough money to live out the rest of the year.
Right. So, but when the studios combined are making 3 pilots for the entire season, when they normally make over 100, then nobody's working. So that's what I got out of that. So.
Well, it seems to me to be like a self-inflicted wound in a lot of ways, because a lot of the demands that these actors made in the strike, along with the writers, basically made things more expensive for the studios. And therefore, in addition to cutting back, you know, just in general to save costs, they're now cutting back because it's more expensive to create, you know, a TV show or a movie or whatever. And I want to throw this to Odin, because, you know, this is a financial thing, where we saw this big extension of production during the COVID era and the lockdowns and stuff like that, because they needed content for their streaming services, which they were trying to launch. And then they realized, oh, like streaming services are just a black hole of money. And so now the studios are taking austerity measures to try to like reel back the spending, which means putting out less content. And the actors are now feeling the ramifications of that. But in addition to that, also their strike had a big impact on that, because a lot of actors weren't working during that time. And now, like, that they are able to work, there's like less jobs, and that actually gives the studios much more leverage in how they negotiate with people, because like actors can't go back and renegotiate salaries because there's a increased demand for the few roles that are available. And so studios are basically going to be strong arming them left and right. So Odin, what's the financial impact here of the studio's austerity measures?
Yeah, I mean, I think that kind of jumping off what Tom was talking about when it comes to how few people actually make it in the acting industry, one of the other things to think about is that, you know, for people to be working actors, meaning that they can actually sustain a living with that as their primary income, it is incredibly small. I went and lived in New York for actually several years for college, and one of the things that I saw a lot was a lot of people who were, you know, bussing tables, working at the Stardust, I think it was called the Stardust Diner in New York City, and so many of them were so talented, and yet because there were just so many other people who were just as talented or even more talented, there was no room for them. And so add to that how Hollywood got into such a groove for such a long time, where they were able to justify, right, putting out just inordinate amount of content. You think about the number of movies made today versus the number of movies made 20, 30, 40 years ago. And I think that you would see just, again, this massive explosion of more projects being greenlit than ever before, because they have to be able to fill in the streaming content, right? There's films on streaming that are movies that otherwise probably would never have seen the light of day, because there would not have been enough financial incentive for them to actually make it, to get anyone to come out to the actual theater itself. And so you look at how they get to that point, and then all of a sudden COVID happens. And now all of a sudden people start to realize, oh, my money matters a lot more. and I need to be a lot more careful with my money, and I can't just waste it on the films, not just from streaming, but even coming out in theaters anymore. And so what ends up happening is that you have a lot of people that are just unwilling to go to the theater, unless it is a event film, and even those, it can be hit or miss. It has to be a good film with good word of mouth, or at the very least has to have very effective marketing, and that's just not something that Hollywood has really been able to catch up with, because it's not just about convincing people to have interest in your movie. It's now about convincing people to have interest in your movie and spend the precious money that they have on completely unnecessary things. And so I think it's interesting because of the fact that they did reach such a point where there were so many films, so many projects, meaning so many more jobs, and now things are starting to be reined back. It's almost as if there's this stasis being brought about. So the concept, or the thing that's being brought up is, this is Hollywood and they're taking away our jobs, et cetera. It's like, well, maybe they were giving too many, right? Maybe there were a little bit too many opportunities before, because, movies are an art form, or they should be an art form. And so there has to be that level of artistic integrity, and that's something that a lot of these films have really lost in a lot of ways. And so I think that's what you're seeing the studios suffer because they're putting out a lot of just garbage that is not making money, is not convincing people to spend their hard-earned money. And now on the actor side of it, you're also now seeing them realize, I really had it good for a long time, and it was kind of an inflation almost of the industry. And I think it probably prompted a lot more people to maybe seek it out, because a lot more people were getting jobs than ever before, and now you're kind of seeing the ramifications of all that.
Crimson, part of this Hollywood shrinkage is that in studios cutting back cost, it used to be that you'd get like a 21 episode season of TV, right? But now we're seeing that even like the seasons of TV are being shortened to like at the most maybe like 12 episodes, 12 to 16. But for streaming originals, like some of those are just like 6 to 8 episodes long. And so basically studios are spending less per episode, and they're making fewer of these things. And so even actors who could basically reliably, count on their show to bring in like royalties, or like, go like, multiple episodes, are now seeing that, that's just not the case. Like, for instance, I believe recently the Blue Bloods cast had to take an overall 25% cut to their income in order to keep the show going for like a 14th season or something like that. You also saw with Lois and Clark on the CW, where the cast had to like basically take cuts to their salary just to keep the show going. So like they're getting paid less for doing fewer episodes. And, basically Hollywood is in a situation here where, the old model is just not going forward anymore. What's your take on all this?
You're muted.
Sorry, I had to play around with that. First off, my volume's coming in okay?
Yeah, no more white noise. Sounds good.
All right, good. Just trust the troglodyte to have tech problems. So the way that everything has been changing over the last couple of years, especially with streaming stepping in, has altered so much of the landscape that I don't think that Hollywood, among others, have actually been able to really keep up with the way that they need to change things. They're so used to everything working a certain way that they figure that they can just effectively balloon the market. And now when we have competing forms of entertainment for basically free on YouTube and Twitch and other various websites like that, Hollywood has to work even harder in order to actually stand out from the crowd. And when they start putting out one bad product after another, like especially when it has like no soul in it, it's just some tasteless corporate nonsense, like what the MCU's been slowly divulging into. People are not going to gravitate towards that. They're going to gravitate towards something that's real. They want something that is entertaining and at some point meaningful. This is, of course, not 100% of what consumers are going to want to go for. You are going to have the people who are going to be totally satisfied with whatever like bilge is spat out by an AI algorithm. But since Hollywood has not been able to really keep up with the market and actually adapt to change, they're going to slowly sink into obscurity, which is why we're seeing so many jobs starting to diminish, but not just in quantity, but in pay. It's the same thing that we saw happen with, to bring it back to books, Borders a couple years ago when e-readers started coming out. Borders wasn't able to keep up with the market. They weren't able to evolve in time. So while Barnes and Nobles had the, I think it was the Nook, they were able to stay afloat for at least up until now. One of the Barnes and Nobles near me recently closed down, so that's sad. But Borders wasn't able to adjust in time, and so they ended up going belly up overall. And Hollywood is at the crest of that hill, and if they don't adjust, it's just going to get worse for them.
Man, I'd never even thought about how digital books affected the brick and mortar bookstores. That's just, you're right. It's crazy. Like how could they keep up? It's wild.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, and Brian, this isn't just affecting actors. This is affecting a lot of below the line people. So like a lot of the, crew members who, work on TV shows and stuff like that, they're not getting hired again for this round, and you'll probably see a slowdown in that in future years. But it's kind of interesting because, agents and managers who work on commission, like they're not able to bundle their clients together anymore because like there's just not enough not enough roles in these TV shows to get that many people in there. They've lost all their leverage because the studios are like, well, if you're asking for too much money, we'll just go with this other guy who's not asking for as much. So like they're really hindered in their negotiating deals. And so a lot of agents and managers are taking pay cuts on this stuff. Smaller agencies are actually closing down because they can't generate enough revenue. And those are the incubators for new talent as well. And so like, you're seeing a lot of like younger actors who aren't going to be able to get representation to get those jobs. Casting directors are taking a big hit as well. In fact, in this article, it points out that most casting directors are moving away from California because they do all their stuff through Zoom now because of the pandemic, to find places that are cheaper to live. And also they're also doing real estate and insurance write-downs, as jobs, and doing like their primary casting duties on the side because there's no money in it. So how do you see this stuff impacting like below the line workers, and how is that going to affect Hollywood going forward?
They took our jobs. It's gonna affect Hollywood in a way where I think that the budgets for movies are gonna have to shrink. I think budgets are gonna have to shrink because less people are watching movies. Apparently, there's less profit in TV shows, which is why they've cut everything to 10 episodes, 8 episodes, whatever. And for the below the line workers, for like the craft service guys and the grips and the cinematography and the casting agents, a few of the real good ones are probably gonna stick around. The ones that don't need the money. But I do believe that everything in life is a pivot, right? So like when money dries up in your professional life, when your money dries up in your whatever business you're in, you got to pivot to wherever the money's at. And I think a lot of these people are going to go online. It makes a lot of sense. And if you're trying to create, if you want to be creative in a creative industry, then jump on YouTube, Rumble,
Brian.
Twitter.
There's always Twitch. You can always, there's always YouTube. You can go be a Call of Duty streamer.
OnlyFans
at Matt Vader 74 on YouTube. I'm playing video games.
Go check him out.
That's the only way I'm going to be able to retire. So please come follow.
Go check out one of my 12 channels. I used to be a below the line worker. Not before this, a long time ago, and I got 12 channels now. Check out one of them.
Can't wait. I can't wait to go to Arnold Schwarzenegger's Call of Duty channel. It's going to be great.
Right. Well, I think the real rich actors don't give an F, but like the people that are, the 26-year-old guy that's been doing, that's been a grip for 3 years and trying to work his way up the industry, and there's no longer any work. And with the new DEI thing, where it's like, well, we have to hire a specific number of people, and there's like 45 white guys like waiting for a role. But everyone's just looking for the brownest face possible to hire him to be a grip,
I'm trying to break into that geezer gaming, gray-haired gamer niche.
Today we're playing Call of Duty. Get to the chopper.
No, man. What you gotta do is you gotta make your own niche. Start a naked OnlyFans video game streaming channel.
Yeah, naked. Nobody. Come on.
Yeah. Well, Brian. I think that the Hollywood unions would make it very difficult for a lot of these people who might want to do like internet productions or whatever, because basically if you're a member of the union, they have certain requirements you have to meet. So it could be a very difficult situation there. But I want to throw this to Vader real quick.
Oh no.
So Matt, you know, a lot of this is kind of like a Hollywood self-inflicted wound, because basically there's no more physical media, right? Like they're not putting out DVD sales, they're not syndicating shows anymore. They're, you know, broadcast media is basically dead at this point. And a lot of Hollywood's ancillary, you know, ways of making money has basically dried up because of the digital streaming revolution. But in addition to that, theaters are still reeling from the you know, the COVID lockdowns and stuff like that. And so essentially the theatrical revenue has also, you know, taken a huge hit as well. And so basically the studios are in a situation where nothing that they do is going to make the type of money that they used to make. Right. And so that trickle down effect is being felt by all these actors and actresses. But in all honesty, like, how bad do you feel for these people who are basically playing make believe and hate us, you know, middle Americans for our beliefs and our our tastes, and actually attack people for wanting better content?
Right. I don't feel bad for them at all. I think the industry is they're going to have to pivot at some point if they want to start making the money again, and they're going to have to, you know, start embracing people with other points of view. You know, there's people out there like Dean Cain, for example, or some of these other people that have points of views that don't necessarily agree, that you know, they're going to find their own ways to do this thing. You know, Dean Cain's been making his rounds on a lot of shows in our circle. You know, wasn't he on FNT?
He
Godin?
was.
I mean, how wild is that? Superman on FNT. That's amazing. You know, so these people are out there. They're not dumb. They're smart. They're going to figure things out. The people that aren't figuring it out are the people back there in those studios that are just trying to scratch their head and figure out what to do here. I don't know exactly what their answer is, but yeah, man, no, I don't feel bad. I don't feel bad for them at all. But I do hope they get their act together, because I do enjoy good entertainment, and I want it to come back. So
let me ask the whole panel this question, right? Does this open up potential opportunities for a parallel indie movement where we 100%. Where we see people, you know, making movies that audiences actually want, as opposed to Hollywood trying to force their crap down our throats?
Dude, Drinker released his trailer for a movie he made yesterday that he made for $250,000, right? So, and it looks like it was had a budget of a $10 million movie. So, I mean, yeah, there's definitely going to be a cottage industry, a rebellion industry that's going to grow out of this, and some of it's going to suck, and some of it's going to be really good. And I'm here for it. So I don't know what you other guys think, but yeah.
Well, I mean, there's also the indie movement in the books industry. The Iron Age is something that's that a lot of people are pushing pretty heavily, and a lot of indie authors are actually able to do a lot of things successfully. On my channel, I'm trying to push more indie books and giving shout outs, because a lot of these books actually really deserve it. I've got one that I'm actually really excited to announce in my next video. I might as well spoil now. Listen, by Marissa Beck. It has probably the most realistic take on mental health struggles I've ever come across in any form of medium, and I need more people to read that book. It's excellent. 5 out of 5 stars easily.
Wow.
I mean, this guy right this guy right here next to me, he's an independent author, and he's got a whole library of stuff that he's written.
He's talking about me.
And they're all fantastic. Come on.
He's not talking about me.
I hate these cameras sometimes. I'm dancing.
You know, Tom and Odin, it kind of reminds me of that time period in the 90s where we had this small resurgence in indie film with like Kevin Smith and Robert Rodriguez and all these guys that quickly got gobbled up by Hollywood because it was so popular. Do you think that there's a potential there for like a parallel economy with the Hollywood system?
Well, that was just kind of a recycling of what happened in the 80s and the early 70s as well, which basically kicked off with Easy Rider, right, back in 68, 69. And then that gave us, you know, the USC Mafia, which was like George Lucas, Francis Ford Coppola, Martin Scorsese, all those guys with Steven Spielberg. And then in the 80s, you had like, you know, Brian De Palma was the other end of them guys, and Who else was it there? There's like David Lynch, Cronenberg, all those guys came in the early 80s. Then, like you said, in the 90s, you had Tarantino and Kevin Smith and Robert Rodriguez. But the difference now between them is there's a lot of gatekeeping going on. There was only like one more class after that, and it was a small class, and most of them were Nepo babies like J.J. Abrams. I mean, you had your Eli Roths, and you had a couple of them that came through, but not many. And they have not allowed any new voices to come in that are not DEI approved, right? So it's going to take a while.
Well, in the
guys
Hollywood
like Drinker, say Drinker and those guys can make these movies, but if you think Hollywood's ever going to give them any attention,
no.
But
not
that's
like
kind of the
Kevin
point,
Smith
right?
and all those guys did. Yeah,
that's kind of the point, right, Odin? Where basically, we have YouTube where people can premiere a movie. We have other methods of distribution now. You could create your own app to go on like a smart TV or something like that. You have Tubi. Tubi is like a huge move for indie authors or indie filmmakers, because you can basically put your movie up on Tubi and actually make money off of the ad revenue splits and stuff like that. So do you think that, outside of the Hollywood system, that there's actually potential there for, alternative creators to get exposure?
There might be, but it is going to be limited, because obviously in the spaces that we are in, we know this just being in the YouTube space, that there's always this facade that there's just, everyone wants to be a YouTuber. There's just so much money in it. And then you actually get in the space and you're like, it turns out it's not really exactly how it was painted, before.
It's not lucrative.
You still have to be able to get.
There's a reason the
reach.
studios spend the same amount of money as on a budget as they do advertising.
Yeah, absolutely. Because that is going to ultimately get it in front of people, get it in front of people's eyes, and that's what's going to, be able to help them. So I think that there's a chance for it to be successful, but it really depends on what you consider success. Is it, making so much money compared to your smaller independent budget, like whatever that might be, increasing over time. I think that, looking at something like, for instance, not within films, but within the independent creator space, like things like Rippaverse, where they're growing and expanding. I hope that continues on, and obviously, I think that's going to kind of be one of those things that we'll see just how much longevity there is to that. But it's going to be interesting to see how all this stuff works out, how things change over time. But really, it comes down to you have to be passionate about your project. You have to be willing to put that money at the very beginning, at least, to get it in front of people. But also too, remember, a lot of these companies, a lot of these studios, they own a lot of the means of getting your stuff out there too, and or at least they're friends with those that are in charge, and so they can put blocks. And we see this happen all the time when channels get taken down on YouTube and everything like that for silly nonsense garbage.
Well, I saw someone in the chat say, cancel your streaming subscriptions and support your favorite YouTube channel, and I fully agree with that.
Yeah,
and
fully agree.
In honor of that, let's get to some super chats. We have.
Well, I just wanted to say, to end that out, there is a possible door. It's just going to take a while, and you got to find people to fund any kind of advertising, because we're at a place now where it's easier to get a movie in the theater than it ever was before. Because like you guys recently rented out a theater, right? It's all digital now.
Yep.
So you could four-wall a movie real easy. Like you can go city to city, advertise the crap out of a movie, and that's exactly how they used to do it. I mean, sure, some movies got, obviously besides the wide release films, but like Halloween, the 1978 film, that's exactly how it got rolled out across America. They would literally go from market to market to market to market, because they only had like 4 or 5 prints of the movie or whatever it was, and they would just show it in a city, and then they'd move on to the next city, and just there's a possibility there that you could do something like that.
All right. Well, Icthulu for $5. Crimson is right. Ad dollars are now split with TikTok and YouTube. 50 million plus movies will die in our lifetime, and it will resemble the theater scene. That's a very dark take on stuff. And of course, we have Mikey, Mexican Iron Man, for $10. Hail panel. I'm seeing Dune tomorrow in IMAX.
So am I.
Mikey!
Excited for this release.
How are you guys going tomorrow? It's not open until next week, right?
There's a fan event.
I hate you guys.
Yeah, we're all very excited for Dune. Can't wait to see part 2, so we can actually get a complete movie.
I would be going, but because my wife just recently watched part 1 and really wants to see part 2, she's read the novel like I did, because I had just finished it, and she was able to beat me to that one because I was only halfway through when the first film came out. And so because of that, long story short, I am not going tomorrow because of that.
Well, that's okay. We've been very Dune heavy on the Salty Nerd podcast recently.
Still gonna be.
But
defending the garbage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Tom mentioned Eli Roth, which brings us to our next story, which is Borderlands the next Madam Web? So for those of you who aren't aware, we recently got a trailer for the upcoming video game adaptation Borderlands, starring Cate Blanchett, Jamie Lee Curtis, Kevin Hart, and other people. And it was written and directed by Eli Roth. For those of you who don't know who that is, he's the guy who made Cabin Fever, and I believe he was in Tarantino's Inglourious Bastards.
Thanksgiving.
And, yes, his latest movie was Thanksgiving. But the Borderlands video game has a lot of fans of it because it's a good video game. They've put out a couple sequels and stuff like that. It has a very unique visual style to it, and a lot of people were excited when they heard that it was being adapted into a movie. And then we got this trailer. Now, I just want to preface this by saying I love Cate Blanchett. I think she's gorgeous. She reminds me of like a classic movie starlet, like someone from the 50s that just has this aura around her. Like I love her. I don't love her in this trailer. Like she's obviously like way older than the character is meant to be. Way miscast. And I feel the same way about Jamie Lee Curtis and Kevin Hart. I don't feel like they fit the characters from the video game very well. And it's very curious to me why Eli Roth made these decisions. But I know that there are two people on this panel with very, very passionate takes on this. So I want to start off with Crimson. Crimson, what was your take on the Borderlands trailer?
Well, as I told Kadish when we were discussing this initially, I have very loud thoughts on this. I haven't played all the Borderlands games. I've played 1, 2, and the pre-sequel, as well as some of the DLC. So I enjoy the gameplay, and not so much the writing. The problem with Borderlands as a series, though, is that the writing has always been like mid at best, and there's a lot of moments that, even in context, are weird, like beyond what's reasonable, or they're cringy. But the gameplay is fun. You get to run around, shoot bandits in the face with all these weird guns, marvelously bizarre guns. And that is something that I did like from the trailer, because we get that one shot
deranged.
Where Lilith is, laying on that thing, shooting the rotating barrel handgun, whatever that was. Props to the prop department. That did look good. But the problem is now what you're doing is you're taking all that. You've got the cringe writing and you got the fun gameplay. And now with the movie, you're taking the fun gameplay out and you're leaving only the cringe writing. So my big concern with that is you're going to have, maybe they're able to capture the atmosphere of the Borderlands landscapes and characters and dialogue. And that's not always a good thing, because some of these characters can be a bit grating. Tiny Tina, for example, in small doses can actually be quite amusing. You put her on screen for an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours, however long this ends up being, a lot of people are going to start complaining about how annoying she gets. Kevin Hart, way too small to be playing Roland. He's a funny actor. I like seeing him in movies. But Roland is supposed to be like this big buff military dude. Both Lilith and Tannis, I could accept them as aged up versions of. I could accept Blanchett and Jamie Lee Curtis as aged up versions of these characters. But if they're supposed to be the characters from the games, they don't fit at all. They're at least 30 years older than they should be. I'm not crazy about Jack Black voicing Claptrap. Maybe that'll grow on me. Frankly, the only character of the trailer who doesn't bother me is Krieg. But his inclusion...
You can't see his face and he doesn't say anything.
Yeah, he doesn't say nothing.
I mean, yeah, that's a plus so far, so it could still go downhill.
And he looks exactly like he does in the game, right? So, I mean...
Right.
He's pretty close, actually. So far, I don't have any complaints about Krieg. But his inclusion, palling around with Lilith and Roland, when they almost never interacted in the games, suggests to me that they're taking all of these elements from the games and trying to blend them together to tell a unique story, which could work potentially, because that's kind of what they did with the Sonic movies. And so far, of the first two, the Sonic movies are doing really damn good. Like paying attention to the source material, actually trying to honor what came beforehand, for lack of a better word. Like I'm going to be shoving children out of the way to see Sonic 3. Borderlands, not so much. Like, I might give it a chance, but after this first trailer, I'm not sure, to be honest.
Yeah, I just want to say this really quick. To me, this movie feels like they're just throwing some big name actors in, and they're trying to capture some kind of James Gunn style magic in a video game movie. That's what I got. I got like a wannabe James Gunn kind of Galaxy or Guardians of the Galaxy vibe off of this thing. You know, am I off base there? I mean, Jamie Lee Curtis. Is she a draw? Is she a draw now?
Is every crazy space movie going to be a Guardians of the Galaxy sequel?
No, but you hear the music and the stuff. I just feel like they were trying to do a Guardians of the Galaxy kind of trailer here.
I'll say this for the trailer: they captured the look of the games really well. Like the games came out long before Guardians of the Galaxy. But I want to toss this to Brian because, first of all, Brian, I disagree with you that in your review you said Jamie Lee Curtis is still hot. I'm like, Jamie Lee Curtis has never been hot.
No, I said no, I didn't. Oh yeah, I did say that. Yeah, she is still hot.
But
she's still hot in True Lies. So
yeah, when she's eating her bowel movement yogurt, sure.
I guess so.
But Brian, like you had a take on this, which was kind of interesting. Which you actually kind of liked what you saw in the trailer. So I want to get your take on it.
Yeah, I kind of liked it. I kind of liked the the delightfully deranged, the sort of nutty James Gunn's Guardians meets Mad Max. The comedy does feel a little Hollywood, from what we saw, but we don't know how crazy they're gonna get. If this is truly like an R-rated movie, it could be an insanely fun thing to witness, and it might not be as honest with the source material as we want it to be. That's for sure. But to be fair, Crimson, I don't know if there's a whole lot of source material to be honest to. Borderlands is not like an incredibly deep story, I play Borderlands. I love Borderlands, but it's less about the story and more about, like you said, everything else. So if they can actually tell a really compelling story and make you like the characters and have all the crazy deranged nonsense that Borderlands has, then it could be fun. And what's the purpose of a movie, right? To entertain, inspire, have fun. If it entertains me, and I'm having a good time, then it's a win. And like I said, I don't think there's a whole lot of lore Borderlands wise to be concerned about.
Let me ask you both, Crimson and Brian, have you guys played the Telltale game based off of Borderlands?
No.
I've seen clips. I've never played it.
Yeah, I've seen clips too.
Okay, just interesting because they actually crafted an entire story out of Borderlands that might be better than what you saw in the actual games themselves.
Well, Brian's right as far as the story. The writing and the story in the games have never been that deep. I think I can accurately sum up the first game, for example, by saying it's about a bunch of people. They're looking for a vault, so they arrive on this planet. Some stuff happens, and then they find the vault.
That's it. That's pretty much it. Yeah, there you go.
So it's a heist movie.
Yeah,
not really. It's more like
so it's like the first 5 minutes of Guardians of the Galaxy.
Mm-hmm.
Like imagine different scenes from different Mad Max movies and just throw them into the middle of the first game, and that's pretty much what you
mash them together. Yeah.
Right.
Someone compared it to Twisted Metal. That's a perfect comparison because that series was awesome, and the game doesn't have a whole lot of story and lore, and they managed to capture the essence of that game and tell a really awesome story, while you had a fun time with the actual characters that, again, didn't have a whole lot of back history. They don't have a lot of backstory to them.
This sounds like a movie I want to buy a matinee ticket to and not pay full price to go see.
I got to say something about
I'll
the
wait
Mad
till
Max
it's on
thing.
streaming.
Because this looks like Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome. It don't look like not Thunderdome, Furiosa. Like, people forget what Mad Max really was.
What was on with Furiosa? Except for this.
That's not Mad Max.
He's in the whole movie, dude.
No,
in the
he's
entire
not.
movie. Yes,
He's
he
a side
is.
character.
He's strapped to
He's
a
a
whole
side.
movie.
He
He's
literally
there.
gets side seated.
He's in the whole movie.
He's driving the motorcycle. He's in the little
Yeah, so
sidecar.
what?
I mean, come
He's-
on.
Yeah, I
Fighting
mean,
the guys on top of the hood.
not only that, it looks
All good.
nothing like the other movies.
Yeah.
Looks
Nothing like
fantastic.
them.
Heathens, you guys, come on.
No.
Great
All
movie.
right, all
That's the
right.
thing. I actually like the film. It's just I
do
totally
too.
agree. It's not a Mad Max movie. Like that.
I can't,
That's where
I can't wait till it's
Yeah,
it's
not
set in the
Mad
Mad
Max,
Max world. It's inspired by Mad Max.
Do
Come
not
on.
care. It's not Mad Max.
Wow.
Wait, you're not gonna go watch the next one, Brian?
I'm gonna watch it. I
You
like
know you're
the-
gonna go watch the next one.
Yes, I'm going to, but they're
And you're
not
gonna
Mad
love
Max
it.
movies, and I've had that argument for a long time. If Max is not in the movie, then how is it a Mad Max movie?
Set in the world.
They
of-
needed in the title just to
Mad Max.
sell it. But that was my point. Is like
Yeah.
Mad Max Furiosa almost felt like that was inspired by things like Borderlands, as opposed to the other way around. It felt like to me because Mad Max is so desolate and very simplistic.
Yeah.
And there's like all that fiery crap that was in Furiosa. Like none of that stuff is in the other movies. None of it. The closest you get to it is Thunderdome, and even that is very subdued compared to that. Like,
Well,
Yeah.
Tom, I want to ask you this. So, outside of being accused of being ageist, Kate Blanchett, she's an amazing actress, but she's not known for like action films. Like she's a serious actress. Like she does like, very very serious roles and stuff like that. And in this, it felt weird seeing this actress who's I believe she's in her 60s. With this like pink hair that
54.
54. Okay, so she's 54.
she looks good for 54.
She looks great too.
but-
Yeah.
No, I hear you, Matt. I agree with you.
Don't get me wrong, but like, is she a little bit old to be an action star?
It's not even so much the old part. It's just that she feels completely out of place. And I have zero reference for the game, right? Because it's not on. So like, I have no idea what it is. But like just watching this, I'm going, yeah, she seems a little out of place. And then Jamie Lee Curtis, I guess. I don't know. I mean, her character, at least,
Is Helen Mirren going to be in
trailer.
the sequel?
I hope so.
That'd be cool.
I mean, I don't know. I agree with you. She just doesn't fit in here. Something doesn't feel right with her. And then I saw a picture of what the original character's supposed to be, and it's like, yeah, it's more like a Lindsay Lohan type than a.
I believe the original character is 18. Is that right, Brian Crimson?
Lilith, I
Lilith
believe
is
in the
22.
first game is like 22.
She's 22.
That's very
I don't
specific.
know what Tannis is
That's
specifically.
what she is.
I mean, I get it. Yes,
Tannis is a little older. She's a little older, but she's definitely not, in her
She
50s.
I get it.
Tannis
In the
cannot
80s and
be
90s,
beyond low 30s.
it was normal for a 30-year-old to play a teenager. But then again, back in the 80s and 90s, we went from age 18 to 30 like overnight. People don't realize that. That's just the way it was. That's the way we aged.
Right, it's true.
but-
You became an adult, and all of a sudden you were 30. It was like
Now we
there was
can't
no 20s.
Graduate
Really
high school,
can't-
all of a sudden your back hurts.
And now we can't kick our
And you got bills.
kids out of the house. It's like, get out of here. Move.
Yeah, and now they're 35, and they're like, "Mom, I don't want to leave the house.
Let's get out.
Yeah.
Leave. We haven't had sex in 25 years.
Keep saying you want a brother. Well, you're not going to have one if you don't
Leave.
house.
I'm still on your health insurance, Mom. How? How are you still on health insurance?
You're
So,
47 years old.
I'm older than you.
Yeah, when your son has diabetes, like you come on.
My kid's older than I am, and yeah.
When it comes to Kate Blanchett, though, like when she has her blonde hair and she's done up, like she's gorgeous, she's glamorous.
I agree.
Here, it's like they're trying to shoehorn her into a role meant for like a younger actress, and seeing her do like double wielding guns and doing all these stunts and stuff like that with this ridiculous hair and stuff, which would look good on a younger girl, but she doesn't quite pull it off. Like it sends up some red flags, especially considering that Eli Roth isn't the greatest filmmaker ever, but I want to throw this to Odin. Video game adaptations have been very hit or miss in terms of like the box office and stuff like that. And you have this movie Borderlands, which obviously it's going to be a summer release. It's going to be like a big action film, and the humor in the trailer to me didn't really work all that well. The visuals, while nice, nothing about the story of the movie actually kind of like made me want to actually watch it. This seems like I'll catch it if it's on streaming type thing. what do you think is the landscape for video game adaptations in Hollywood right now, especially with all the austerity measures going on?
I mean, it's gonna be limited to a certain extent, because really, when you look at what films have done well in this space, especially in the post-COVID era, they are typically ones that have, one, an established hardcore fan base, and two, a filmmaker that is clearly trying to appease said fan base. I think about Sonic was mentioned earlier. The only reason why Sonic even has a third film coming out is because of the director, Jeff Fowler. After that first trailer came out and the design was garbage and everyone had the backlash, he said, all right, we're pausing the film. We're pausing the release of the film. We're going to fix the visual effects and we're going to redesign it to be more accurate. And sure enough, he did. The fans heard that. And sure enough, they showed up in droves. I personally am not a big fan of those Sonic films. I don't think that they're the best movies. However, the first film I went out to go see because I was like, I have to support this guy because he is doing what many other directors and producers and writers really need to be doing in Hollywood, which is actually, listening to fans, listening to these reactions and doing something about it. I don't think Eli Roth is that kind of person. And so I think any of the critiques and concerns people might have from the trailer probably will still be well-founded, because I just doubt that that's going to happen. I think right now it's slated for an August release, so like late summer release. For me, it's not summer because I'll be back in school at that time. So it's like, no, my summer ends when school starts back up again. But right now, like the early indication of budget is around 100 million. There's no source on that one though, so I take that with a grain of salt. But yeah, ultimately, the ones that have done well have had the fan base, and I think also more recently of a film like Five Nights at Freddy's, right, where that film made, especially made very well on its money based off the budget. They were obviously very careful with how they spent, but they also made sure the film was filled with Easter eggs. So even though there were some things that some fans I know weren't big fans of, as far as some made like changes or some weird things added in, because it was so lore heavy, because it was so deep and rich in the lore. I mean, there were kids that I teach who are still huge fans of that franchise who loved it. Like they just went gaga for it. And to go day and date release and still be able to do that at the box office, it was very impressive. But when it comes to Borderlands, I think from what I'm hearing from people that have played the game or have some knowledge of the source material, it doesn't sound like the fan base is going to be as hardcore as you would have for a Sonic fan base or for even Five Nights at Freddy's fan base. And then when you make a trailer that doesn't seem to, at least from what I'm hearing, really seem to be in the same vein, when you have a 50-year-old woman playing a character that's supposed to be a lot younger, I don't think that that's going to really drive out as many people.
Let me ask you guys this. Do you guys think these big AAA video game movie adaptations have the audience to support a big budget film? Like Super Mario Brothers had 4 generations of people that played Mario to move into that movie theater. But does a game like Borderlands have that kind of support? I just saw that there's a BioShock movie in development. Is a movie like BioShock going to be able to spend $200 million on a film and make that money back?
This is a big misconception, especially with like when people are like, oh, they should just adapt anime and manga and that'll do just fine. It's like, yeah, it has a big audience as far as for selling for manga and anime. Right. It does well in certain regions, but as far as America, it's hardly made a dent. Same kind of thing with video games. Like the average video game sells anywhere from 3 to 10 million copies. Right. That's not going to sustain a franchise. Sure, a big franchise like GTA, Mario Brothers, like you mentioned, something that has a history built in with it, that's a little different. But that's the thing, and that's the answer question why Cate Blanchett's in this movie. Mm-hmm. Is not for the video game people. It's to get people like you and me in the theater. That's why. Because the kids who play, they don't know who the fuck Cate Blanchett is. They're their grandma as far as they're concerned. She has no idea who this chick is. She was in movies back before they were born. Like, so to them, it's just like, whatever, they're in the movie or they're just pissed because she's not the right kind of character, right? But that's just to get us at the theater. It's the same thing with a lot of these things. That's why they have, Jack Black doing the voice of the one robot and all that kind of stuff.
Kevin Hart.
Hart.
Let's put he's in every movie now. Exactly. Every movie they need somebody funny, and it's like
I'm sure they tried to get Idris Elba or somebody like that.
Like,
but yeah,
need something funny. Put Kevin Hart in it.
And also with both of those people, I think it makes a good comment because Kevin Hart's always the same in everything he does. Changes. And if you like his shtick, it can be funny. But he's doing the same thing. That was my biggest critique of the Mario Brothers film was I hated that Jack Black did the voice for Bowser because all I heard was Jack Black. I was like, okay, this is just Jack Black doing looking like Bowser but sounding exactly like Jack Black. Okay. And then what's happened since then, now he's become this musical thing, right? It's this whole thing that's never existed really seemingly within the franchise from from the times I've played it. So that's what I see from this too, is like, okay, you're just putting in people, as Tom was saying, right, to get people like us involved. But for me, it's like I have no knowledge of the game, but also when I see those people, I think, okay, this tells me that this is not a serious project.
Yeah, I feel like Terry Crews would have been a better choice. But speaking of the actors, Ariana Greenblatt, who plays Tiny Tina, she was the young Ahsoka Tano in Ahsoka. She's actually been in a lot of stuff.
She's been the insufferable girl
Barbie.
in Barbie. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, was she the daughter in Barbie?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, but Matt Vader, you're a gamer.
Nah,
you're not very
sort of.
familiar with Borderlands. No. Did anything in this trailer make you want to actually see the movie?
It's like I said earlier. If I find a trailer, it has its moments. It's kind of has it. I laughed when the robot was pooping out the bullets.
That was funny.
I mean,
Keep looking.
Am I the only one who didn't laugh at that?
But
I didn't laugh at it.
I like fart jokes and potty humor, so that's
so do I.
That's kind of in my vein of things to laugh at. But no, like I said earlier, this is a movie I will probably not spend a full price ticket on. Maybe if somebody buys me a ticket, or if my wife goes shopping and there's a matinee out going and I want to go waste some time, maybe I'll go see it. But otherwise, I'm probably just going to wait for it to come out on whatever streaming service it comes out on that I have up here on my TV. So, I mean, I have them all, so I'll be able to watch it at some point. And it'll probably be out in 2 weeks after the movie's released. So we don't have to wait long for these movies anymore. And that's another reason why people don't go to the theater, right? I mean, why go spend $100 on two people to go to a movie theater and overpriced popcorn when you can watch it in 3 weeks on Netflix or Disney Plus or Paramount or something? So there's no point.
Yeah. The one issue with this one is I believe the distributor is Lionsgate, and I don't think a lot of their films are known for coming out too quickly.
Well, that's good, but maybe I will go see it then. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what else is playing at the theater that weekend. So.
All right, guys. Well, we got a super chat from the Astro Nerd Boy for $10. I've only played Borderlands 3. The story sucked, but the gameplay rocked. That said, while I thought Pandora looked great in the trailer, the casting for the movie is all wrong, in my humble opinion. Yeah, the casting for it, when I was directing movies in Hollywood, the joke among directors was 90% of directing is casting, right? If you get the right actors for the right roles, your job as a director is basically over. Like, you don't need to worry about, dealing with them and directing them and stuff like that. They just kind of like go off, do their thing, and it's right for, the movie. But I think that in terms of casting as well for audiences, most audiences can tell when something's miscast. Would you guys agree with that?
Yeah.
Oftentimes.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. Just want to remind everyone that we are 5 subs away from hitting our 10 sub goal for this live stream. So if you guys have been thinking about subbing to the Salty Nerd podcast channel, please do it today, so we can hit our goal. And also thank you to everyone who does those gifted memberships. That is a big, big deal. All right, guys. So let's talk a little bit about everyone's favorite topic, which is Marvel, and how Marvel is quote unquote retooling. Yeah, quote unquote retooling their blockbuster franchises going forward. So there was a very interesting article that came out in the Hollywood Reporter. By the way, guys, all the articles that we talk about in the live stream linked in the description if you guys want to go and read them yourselves. But basically, the Hollywood Reporter is saying that Marvel is quietly retooling amid superhero fatigue. And what's funny is that if you actually read the article, they're not actually retooling anything. They're producing less, and they're taking more time with making garbage content. That's basically what this article is telling us. Some of the things that they hit on is that the casting of Fantastic Four, Deadpool and Wolverine being released, the TV shows that they have coming up like Agatha. they keep the article mentions it's Darkhold Diaries, but I think it's Agatha All Along is the new name now or something like that.
They keep trying to make it a thing, and it's like it's never going to be a thing. Stop.
Nobody
Changed
cares.
his
No
name
one
like 3
cares.
times now. Yeah.
No one
This was where
cares.
this was like the Morbius for them, right? Like they totally misunderstood the meme. People were making fun of the Agatha thing. They're like, "Oh, people think this is cool." It's like, no,
we don't care.
And so like they're bringing on people like the writer for Thor Ragnarok and Black Widow is coming on to handle Fantastic Four, and the only reason they're hiring this guy is because he has a reputation for actually getting stuff done as opposed to making it good. Then of course you have another diversity hire, Joanna Callow, who's basically the showrunner of The Bear on FX, which has been getting a lot of critical acclaim. But she's being brought on to work on the script for Thunderbolts, which is basically the Suicide Squad, like poor man's Suicide Squad. They're changing up the Avengers movies because basically Quantumania underperformed, and with what do you call it, the Kang actor Jonathan Majors and all of his legal trouble, like Marvel's just distancing themselves from him. So they're going to be pivoting. But like I know I sent the article to you guys so that you could read this before we talked about it. But all this stuff, like they're still going forward with the Ironheart TV series. They're still going forward with Anthony Mackie's Captain America or Captain Falcon or whatever they're calling him nowadays. And it just seems like they're like, oh, we're not really retooling anything. We're just taking more time to make sure that this stuff is even worse than what we were doing before.
God,
So
no snark there.
Make it gay and make it lame.
Yeah, exactly. So I want to throw this to Odin. Odin, what's your take on this? Do you think that Kevin Feige is actually going to fix anything, or is he just doubling down on the stuff that he had planned before?
He's clearly doubling down. He's doubling, tripling, quadrupling down because he's announcing that all the things that were looking like garbage are still set to happen. So basically all that I've been told from him and from the earnings call from Bob Iger is, okay, you're just going to be making less garbage, but you're still you have so many garbage projects in the pipe, it's not going to seem like there's less for quite some time. It's like, okay, so we're going to be like maybe a few years, maybe we'll actually get to a point where less things are actually coming out or less things are actually being made. And I brought this up last night on Friday Night Tights, and I brought it up on here before. You look at what they did last year, 2023, only one film you could even make an argument, and it's not even the best argument, right? There's only one film last year that could have made any money for Disney, and that was Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, and even that one, it's like, maybe it did. We still don't fully know everything about the budgets and stuff, so we'll have to kind of put a hold on that one. But you have a huge mess when even one of the better performing films was at best a small profit maker, and everything else in all areas, not just Marvel, but every other area was just losing money left and right. And so all I'm seeing from this is they are, I think, making this announcement now, acting as if things aren't as bad. And all of this is in anticipation of Deadpool, which is going to be that fool's gold, because I think Deadpool will probably end up doing, well, a heck of a lot better than most of the other things that they put out recently. And I think they're going to try to take that as see, look, the MCU is fine. And it's like, no, this is just that last hurrah of one of the last pre-pandemic, pre-Disney going off the rails completely franchises and films and projects that people actually still have some, nostalgia for and actually still have some anticipation for. But it's going to ultimately lead to a huge disappointment for them for whatever their next film is.
So, Brian, in this article, they talk about how Deadpool and Wolverine is going to be Marvel's only big release this year, 2024, in addition to Echo and Agatha on the TV side, and that this was a strategic move to try to give people a little bit of time away from the Marvel universe so that superhero fatigue will eventually go away by the time Marvel's ready to come back roaring into the movie space. What's your take on that?
I think most of it's BS. I like what Odin said about the fool's gold. Fool's gold. I do believe Deadpool is going to make an insane amount of money, and it's attached to the last hurrah. Everything you said was spot on, but there is a unique opportunity here for them to actually course correct and fix things. No one liked Kang, and lucky for them, the actor that played Kang is a douchebag and is in jail. Okay, so now they are forced to course correct. They have Deadpool coming out, Ryan Reynolds, these creatives that have the ability to entertain. And coincidentally, that character has a storyline where he actually corrects things in the multiverse. So we have the opportunity here to actually course correct. Marvel, take a look at what has not worked in comics and in movies and in your TV shows, and use Deadpool canonically to reboot everything and to bring about X-Men. You have the unique opportunity to actually fix Marvel canonically, legally, with your contracts, and with the fans. And I don't know if they're going to do it. I think Odin's right. I think Deadpool is going to be like one giant fun movie that everyone's going to go watch. It's going to make a ton of movie, but they're not actually going to take this incredible opportunity they have. It is such an amazing opportunity. They can actually rewrite the ship and completely erase all the bad storylines and characters they've made and all the bad decisions they've made, and get everything back on board. And they could do it in universe.
But Brian, are they smart enough to actually do that?
But you know what's funny, man?
To do it well.
I don't think I'm that smart. And I saw it 2 years ago when they announced Deadpool. I don't think most YouTubers and podcasters are as smart as a lot of these executives probably are. Yet they called it. The second Deadpool was announced, the second we had that very first poster where Ryan Reynolds is mimicking the Free Guy poster, and there's all the elements, all the multiverse elements. Everyone was like, dude, he's doing the kills the universe thing. It's going to be perfect. It's the perfect setup. And then, like art imitating life, their whole Kang thing completely crashed and burned with Jonathan Majors. You're like, oh my God. It's like it's being written in real time. It is the perfect opportunity to fix everything. And they're probably not going to do it. That's what drives me nuts. Is there?
Yeah, in the article they said that it's not a reboot. They're going forward with everything that they've already done, but they're just changing what they had planned slightly going forward. And it was a very maddening article in that respect. But I want to throw this to Crimson.
I'm tired, by the way, of people saying it's not a reboot. James Gunn said, we're not rebooting the DCU. Really, bro?
Oh, but I believe this, Brian.
Come on.
Don't call it a comeback.
Yeah, stop saying it's not a reboot when all the characters are completely different actors. It's not even the same Superman. Like, it's not like you changed Superman.
That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about Marvel. There's no way they're rebooting shit. If they reboot, that means they're actually admitting that something is wrong. Now, if the trailer actually had these shots in it when he was looking at the screen in the TVA, then I'd be like, okay, they're actually onto something. No, it wasn't, though. It was all the Avengers we love. So that just still shows me they don't understand fundamentally what's wrong.
Liars!
They're going to keep putting paint on it and make it look good. But
we're only seeing phase one. Show us the twerking She-Hulk.
No, knowing them, that's what they'll do, is they'll actually erase the things we love. Canonically.
That's what I'm saying. The stuff on the screen was Iron Man, Hulk, Thor.
Yep.
They weren't those things.
Right. Yeah. They're going to erase anything pre-Endgame and only bring in She-Hulk and Agatha.
Yeah, exactly. That's their plan. I want to throw this to Crimson. Crimson, you have an excellent series called The Book Was Better. And Marvel has this huge swath of, comic books, source material that they can pull storylines from. Stuff that has been absolutely proven to engage the fans. Like, they know what storylines worked. Why can't they go back and pull from the source material to plan out their next phase instead of just going off of, nothing at all?
I think it was Chris Gore a while back who pointed out that no one reads in Hollywood, and that's the fundamental problem. When Kathleen Kennedy famously stated that they had nothing to really work with when they were rebooting, when they were trying to go forward with the sequel trilogy in Star Wars, completely overlooking the abundance of stuff that they could work with in the extended universe, it would require them to deviate from the algorithms and the formulas it sounds like they're working with. Like, as much as I am looking forward to Deadpool 3, a lot of it seems to have the same stuff that Hollywood is extremely dependent upon. Out of Phase 4, one of the only successes they actually had was Spider-Man No Way Home. And a lot of the reason that worked so well is because you were pulling in Andrew Garfield and why am I blanking on his other name?
Tobey Maguire.
Thank you.
And why am I blinking?
Alan Rickman. Anyway, that really worked out because he had the fans who were excited for all these old Spider-Men coming together in one gigantic adventure. And now we've got Hugh Jackman coming out of retirement in order to play Wolverine again alongside everyone's favorite jackass. And let me actually... I'm a big Deadpool fan. I hope it does well. I hope it makes money. I'm not looking forward... I doubt that they're going to do anything terribly revolutionary with it. It's not going to be some new take on anything. Brian's absolutely right. They've got a wonderful opportunity to reset so many problems. How many times has that happened in comics, for example? The New 52 and Flashpoint completely reset the universe in their respective continuities. They could so easily do that again here. And I very much doubt that they're going to, because that requires them to not just course correct from a lot of things that they've already done, but also, more importantly, requires them to say, okay, we're wrong about this. And that's the most damaging thing that anyone in Hollywood can say about themselves right now. So they're just going to barrel forward with this. Deadpool 3 is probably going to be, sad to say, kind of formulaic or reliant on old tropes. And Marvel's going to have like a slight jump in quality, however you want to define that, and then just going to continue with the rest of the Marvel sludge.
It's one thing too to point out with this Spider-Man. Just remember too that was still mostly a Sony product. So it's like the one like good thing, like really great thing that we can really remember from the last few years was a Sony product that they had 25% of the revenue share. They still
created it. Well, they shot it and they delivered it. It was a Marvel Studios film. But I still argue the only reason that movie was as good as it was is because it was rushed. Because they didn't have time to mess with the DEI crap. Because that movie was a complete reaction to rumor going around that Michael Keaton was going to be in the Flash, and they were going to pull this whole multiverse thing with classic films. So the moment they heard that is when this all started coming together, because that was not even the initial plan for Spider-Man 3. That's why the beginning of the movie is all that stuff that was left over from the last film rushed in the first 10 minutes of the movie, because that was meant to be the whole movie, was them trying to figure out how to get Peter out of this problem. But yeah.
Well, Tom, I want to throw this to you in the sense that, so Marvel's basically stuck with a bunch of bad projects from the previous phase that they know aren't probably going to work out. So you got Captain America movie, you've got the Ironheart TV show, you got Agatha, you got all this stuff that they've already shot and they need to put out eventually. But the big thing that they seem to be struggling with is that all the pillars that they built their Marvel universe on, Robert Downey Jr., Chris Evans, Chris Hemsworth, all these guys, there's no one holding up the franchise anymore because they all got killed off or retired or like whatever. And so I think that one of the big reasons they cast Pedro Pascal as Mr. Fantastic is they think that he's a big enough star where he could carry the Marvel universe going forward. And they're looking for like a new round of hot actors to kind of like, bring the Marvel universe into the next phase. But do you think that that's a good strategy, especially considering that Pedro Pascal isn't necessarily like a huge draw?
I think he's the least of the problems. To be honest with you, I get where you're coming from, and I see what you're saying. But like that to me is like going off of what everybody's saying. And this is what the problem is. In that article, they're like, don't call it a reboot. They're gonna take a little break to make everybody miss the MCU. Nobody's gonna miss shit. That's the problem.
No one's gonna miss shit.
Nope.
That's the thing. And with X-Men 97 and Fantastic Four, what I'm seeing is them literally putting makeup on a pig and expecting us to go, oh, well, that's sexy. Because at first glance, yeah, if you really quickly, flash it, it may look like a chicken in makeup, but it's not. When you finally take a look at the picture, like, no, this is a pig with makeup on, right? Like, it's not exactly what we want, especially once you start breaking down X-Men and we learn about the guy who's running the show and how he's trying to make this all an allegory for being non-binary and stuff. It's like, oh God, you really have missed the whole boat on this.
We're so tired.
And Fantastic Four, I mean, that has a chance with this guy who's writing it, but that's just maybe because it'll be A, B, and C and actually make sense, I guess. I don't know. I mean, is that what you're telling me? Because that's the only thing we got out of those two movies. But, I mean, Ragnarok I thought was the better of the two, obviously. But, no, and I mean, it looks okay, but that's the best you can say for it. As far as the rest of the movies go, this is where I would just shut them down and or cancel them and or write them off on taxes if you can. Now, granted, I know some of the bigger stuff, you probably have contractual obligations. That's the same reason The Flash and Aquaman had to be released, and they didn't try to write those off at Warner Brothers. So that's probably the situation here. But there's nothing stopping them from canceling Ironheart. There's nothing stopping them from canceling Agatha. Why are these still coming out?
I don't think Ironheart happens. I don't think it happens.
It's done. I get what you're saying, but they're still threatening us with it, so it's going to come sooner or later.
Still holding the gun in our head. I think Agatha will happen. I don't think Ironheart will happen.
But as far as Pedro Pascal, no, I don't think he's going to save crap. I don't think, if anything, most people don't really care so much about him being cast, but a lot of people are like, well, what about Krasinski? You already cast him, right? So like, there's a lot of people that are just saying that. They're like, well, that just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it's crazy. I love the rest of that casting, but I don't understand Pedro's.
But, I mean, they're set up. You guys are right. Like, Deadpool could completely kill the MCU, like kill it dead. Right. And then you start all over again with the Fantastic Four in the 60s. Then you move into the 70s, introduce the X-Men. Then you move, into the 80s, you introduce Iron Man and Spider-Man and the Hulk and so on and so forth again. It's new completely versions, new actors, all this stuff. Just make it to where at the end of the Deadpool movie, he completely fucks up and just, you have to completely restart all over again, sending us back to the 60s as an audience, right? Because he breaks the fourth wall. He's like, look, the only way I can fix this, guys, is if I send you guys back in time. So there you go.
Yeah.
Right. Like,
I know you have the ability to do it, and you could do it, and it could be cool, and it could be super self thought, like where you are showing the problems you have and committing to the fans, and you can start with this. It's such a great idea, and they have it all there, and it's already been thought of. It's not like everyone just thought this up. This was thought of before. This is in comics. It's like people don't read their own comics. It's like they don't read their own comics.
And what you can have is this parallel universe where we have a similar history to ours, where just superheroes existed. That's all.
Oh, that'd be so brilliant. Oh my God, I'm so mad that you said that, because now that's what I'm thinking of.
Because the 1960s, you led into the civil rights movement and all that stuff. In the 70s, that's where the X-Men would come in, right off the heels of the Fantastic Four. And then in the 80s, you get the tech boom revolution with Tony Stark coming in and stuff like that. Yeah, makes sense.
I want to throw this to Vader real quick.
Yeah, I can't even imagine the conversations we'd have with alternate parallel multi-timelines splintering off into random resets. It's like, oh my God, this is reset universe number 1 that we got off of this one. But go ahead, man. What do you got?
Vader, in this article, one of the interesting things I got from it was that they're talking about the Agatha series. And they said normally the studio budgets 5 days for reshoots.
Oh yeah.
But Agatha was so perfect they only needed 1 day for reshoots. And I'm hearing a lot of rumors that the show has a lot of LGBTQIA stuff in it.
Yeah.
And they seem dead set on releasing this, even though nobody cares about this character. All respect to Catherine Ham, but I don't think she's a leading lady, someone who can carry her own TV show. Why do you think that Marvel and Disney just keep reshooting these things and insist that they bring them out?
I think that's all they know how to do. All they do is they keep doubling down on their DEI messaging stuff. I mean, what else is there to say? That they have to know that this television, what is it? Do you even call it a television show? The streaming show is not going to perform the way they want it to perform. So why would they spend all of their entire 5-day reshoot budget on it when they can do it in 1 day, fix a couple things, and probably have a nice pizza party at the end, for the people and send them on their merry way. this thing is going to tank so hard. It really is. Nobody cares. Nobody cares about this Agatha character, and I don't even know why they're making this thing. Just because Tom's right. They need to shelve it. They need to and they just need to start doing these tax write-off things, save a little money, however it is that they do. I mean, why? Why is this even being made? I don't understand it because nobody cares.
Of the few people that actually watched the WandaVision show,
I watched it.
But I was saying, like, this is because I imagine this is their reasoning. Of the few people, because not a lot of people, like, in general, watched it, right? That they saw, a lot of people actually really like this character in the beginning. When you're like, oh, that actress, she's fun, I like her. And then when she actually became the character, yeah, exactly. And when you actually got into further to the story, you were like, okay, I still like her, but I don't really like this character. I don't care about this character, you know.
I think she's quirky. She has some personality.
There's a lot of people really like Catherine Hahn.
Didn't do with her, right? Like, and that was the other thing is everybody's like, well, Mephisto's behind it all, and then you come to find out that the creators don't even know who the hell Mephisto is.
Yeah,
actually, Dennis has it right here. BlackRock, the CIA in China told him to do it. That's why. That's exactly right. But
to be fair, Catherine Hahn is a lot of people like her. She's really talented. She's really funny.
She's hilarious. Yeah.
Yeah. She's a lot better than the Ironheart.
She's not someone who can carry her own show. She's a good.
Well, and I don't think it's her.
She's a good supporting actress.
Have you seen Miss Fletcher? I think she's great in that.
I don't know if she'd necessarily be able to not carry her own show, man. I just think the character is a crap character to try and do a show off. That's the thing.
Yeah, I think she can carry her own show, but maybe the character's just not
given the right
enough.
stuff. Yeah, this is a different scenario. Like, nobody's asking for this crap, right? Like, that's the problem. And if you're gonna waste the kind of money that they're wasting on the shows, why is it on shit like WandaVision?
Right.
Why is it on? Where's our Captain America series where we get to see him put back the stones?
To be fair, WandaVision could have been cool, but they went with the least cool option as a storyline. It could have been Mephisto. It could have been.
Well, they should be using these Disney Plus series to tell longer stories that you can't tell in a short film.
100% agree.
And that's what's stupid about it. It's like you're spending the same amount of money. Where's your excuse? Right? Like, that's what I don't understand.
When it comes to Captain America: New World Order, it's the first movie to kind of launch the New Avengers with Anthony Mackie as Captain America as the lead. We've heard lots of troubling reports about, reshoots, basically like page one reshoot type thing.
They're just doing 3 sequences, Matt. Act 1, 2, and 3. That's it.
Yes, exactly. And when this movie comes out, do you think that it might be good, or are we all going to be accused of being racist for not wanting to see it?
That.
Yeah.
Oh, well, we'll be racist for not wanting to see Ironheart. I'm sorry. Who's racist? There's cornrows on the helmet, dude. We're not the racist ones. The kind of concept of that story, that character, everything about it makes no sense. And you know what's funny? They have the numbers. No one bought the comics. Why are we making movies about comic book characters that no one wanted when they were comics?
Well, I hate redundant characters, but I can make a better Ironheart right now than they've got, and that is simple. You just have it to where, like, Robert Downey Jr. in real life giving out these, like, arms and stuff to kids. You have the character Tony Stark in some kids' hospital giving out arms and limbs to kids, and some little girl comes up to him and goes, "Mr. Stark, do you have a heart in your special suitcase for me? Because my heart don't work right." Tony breaks down that night, creates a brand new heart for that kid based on his, arc reactor, saves the kid's life. Years later, sends her to MIT, all that kind of stuff. After he dies, a big crate shows up on her front lawn. Inside is a huge suit, and inside inscribed is "You are my Ironheart, Tony."
Cool story.
God, I just teared up right now.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. So
Brian, that would be amazing. God,
can't do that story.
Brian, I actually have a theory, and that is that Disney has had access to Google Gemini for like years and has been using it to generate all of its scripts for the movies.
This is an outstanding transition. An amazing transition.
So that's what the Panderstone is. It's the AI.
Before we get to our next
probably what it'll be.
Garfield's Bizarre Adventure for $5. Deadpool 3 will be another Guardians 3. It will gross between $750 million and $850 million at the box office, and it will not save the MCU. Odin, do you agree with that?
It sounds a ballpark. Because some people said, "Oh, could it make $1 billion?" I'm like, no. The franchise itself, even at its peak, was not $1 billion franchise, and with everything going on now, I don't see that happening. But I think it does well. I think it makes profit.
Can we do a bet? Because I think it'll make $1 billion. Let's do a bet.
Ooh, what are you betting?
Yeah.
The last time I made a bet, I had to eat pineapple pizza.
Okay.
People weren't happy, and
how is it still possible?
No,
to make $1 billion?
I have
Matt. Please.
I have the stakes. Cornrows. The loser has to put cornrows.
Yes.
Either Odin has to put it in his beard, or Brian has to put it in his head.
Let's
And
do
you
it.
I
have
feel
no
bad
hat.
because if he has to do that to his beard, that means he's probably gonna have to cut his beard to get that out.
No, he won't.
No. You can get him out.
Yeah, no.
Corn
How about Odin? If it makes $1 billion,
He's
you
too
put
white for
cornrows.
that.
If
And you
it
have to
doesn't
wear
make
it
$1
on
billion,
FNC.
and look, it's gonna be harder for me to win this.
Guys, I'm stepping in here. This is not a gambling stream. We're going to bypass this. But okay, let's talk about our next story, which is basically Elon Musk has decided to create his own search engine to compete with Google and Bing. So there was a very interesting exchange between Elon Musk and Tucker Carlson, where basically Elon said, "I'm going to create my own AI-centered search engine. I'm going to call it TruthGPT. It's going to be completely transparent. It's going to be open source, and it's basically in direct response to Google manipulating their search engine results and their AI based off of their various biases." And this article kind of outlining what Elon has planned is very interesting. And already Elon has done so much for free speech by taking over Twitter or Twix or X or whatever you want to call it. And now he's like, you know what? I don't like what Google's doing, so I'm just going to do my own thing. So I want to ask you guys about this in particular, because this could have far-reaching implications. I know he's already said that he's a little bit late to this game, but he seems to be kind of committed to it, and it seems like it's going to kind of mash up with X. Brian, one of the interesting things he talked about in this interview when it comes to TruthGPT is that the revenue model for a lot of these search engines is advertiser based, and therefore they're kind of at the mercy of their advertisers if they want to return certain results. And what he's talking about is doing maybe a subscription model to the search engine, or some type of sponsorship model, or something different than just an straight up ad revenue platform. Now, you've gone deep into the AI realm. What do you think of his plan for TruthGPT, and could it be profitable?
I think that so I don't like the word GPT for search engine, because it literally means generative pre-trained transformer.
Sounds like something you get at the doctor.
Yeah, it sounds like something you get when you're at a club way too late on the wrong side of town. But the thing is, Tom, you know exactly what I'm talking about, Tom.
I had to get a shot for that.
Yeah, he had to get the GPT vaccine. No, but the thing is, it's not good for a search. I love Elon Musk, and I love that he's doing all these things. I absolutely adore it. I think it's awesome. I think it's required for us to continue as a human species. But I don't like the idea of a search, any kind of search, not just being a search. We don't have to recreate the wheel here. A search engine, the Bouillon search engine works great as long as you take the guardrails off, take the restrictions off, and I like the idea of us paying $5 a month, whatever, to use a completely unadulterated, completely uncensored search engine. That'd be fantastic. I would sign up for that in a heartbeat. But I don't want all the AI stuff to creep into a search engine. It's not required. And if a search is going to be an actual, an AI version of search, not only is it not required, but I think it's going to just muddy stuff up. So I'm not sure if he's just using GPT as because it's a cool way to it's a new branding thing for people, or if it's actually going to involve AI. Because if it's going to involve AI, it's not required. We figured out search 20 years ago. Let's just go back. Let's just do that. Let's do search completely unrestricted, no self-safe search, no censorship, no guardrails. Allow people to search for whatever they want, and I'll pay for it 100% all day long. And I appreciate Elon doing it. It's just the GPT stuff is weird to me.
I'm scared.
According to the article, Elon's looking at AI much how YouTube uses AI, where basically AI looks at the search query, it looks at all the information available, and it serves you up results based off of a more balanced take. So instead of being like if you search for Trump and you get all these like New York Times articles and stuff like that, it'll be like, okay, here's some New York Times articles, but also here's some like Fox News articles to kind of balance it out, so that you're not just getting like one side of the conversation when you're doing like a search.
It just feels like I'm being served what it thinks I want to see, and sometimes it can be spot on, and sometimes I just want to see the whole picture, and I don't want you to tell me what I'm looking for.
The big thing with Elon's stuff is transparency, so people can see the code and see like what the potential biases of this AI might be, and he wants it to be basically very fair and evenly balanced and actually delivering results. Now, Crimson, Google took a black eye this past week because of their Gemini release, where basically their AI was proven to be like so influenced by the biases at Google that it was giving comically like terrible DEI based results. And I think Elon, like, he's been trolling Google hard on Twitter lately, and this is a basic response to Google essentially by saying like, hey, you guys are so far left of field with manipulating your search results that I feel the need to step in and do this and make sure we actually have a fair and balanced way of delivering information to people who are searching for it. What's your take on not only Google kind of like, manipulating their AI in such a way, but Elon's response to it?
I think Google absolutely deserved the black eye that they earned themselves with Gemini. The programming was so blatantly biased that they needed a big public display of failure in order to hopefully, like, the cynic in me doesn't believe that this will happen, but hopefully admit that they need to step back and actually reassess themselves. As far as Elon opening up a competing business or search engine for them, fully in favor. I like a lot of what Elon has done in regards to free speech and transparency. I don't think AI is the way to go about it, and not just for a lot of the whole AI doomsaying that a lot of people go on board, say online. A lot of people won't be surprised that I am an English major, graduated from college with an English major. I also had a history minor, and there's a concept in history in as far as how do you properly remove any sort of bias from anything you report on, which is borderline impossible to actually do. You can be as objective as you possibly can, and there is still going to be a bit of framing that inevitably gets injected into whatever you're reporting on or writing or talking about that you yourself are not even aware of. Just weird historical psychology bit there. So I don't think that what he's even talking about, programming an AI for a purely objective search engine, is even really feasible, because how do you properly program that if you yourself are and I'm not talking about like unconscious bias or anything like that. That's word salad stuff. Just like people are not as introspective as they need to be in order to properly, fully, 100% assess how they perceive things and how they how they inevitably insert biases into them, into their day-to-day activity. It's a nice thought having a purely objective search engine. I just think it's a tad foolhardy, because unless you have almost everyone on the planet somehow agreeing on this, it's probably not realistic.
Well, I know that Elon has said that making it open source and allowing different people to come in and make changes and stuff like that and being transparent, it's not so much about objective truth, but it's more about fairness and showing both sides of the argument and trusting the public to make up their minds once they have all the information available to them. I want to throw this to Odin, because not only is Odin a teacher, but he's also a Catholic. And famously, Google Gemini, when asked to show us a picture of the Pope, it was a black woman as the Pope. And it comes down to this thing about like rewriting history, right? Like where you have these AIs that are being trained to deliver information, but it's information that has to meet a certain set of principles that might not be in tune with actual reality. And that's really the thing that I think Elon pointed out as like the driving force behind this decision, is that, you know, the dangers of AI are who's created the AI and how prevalent is the AI going to be, and what is the AI going to deliver to people who eventually accept the truth. You know, there's that old saying that the victors are the ones who write the history books. And in this case, Google obviously is trying to write the history book, because they're saying like, oh yeah, we're going to go back and retool this. We're not going to fix it. We're just going to make it a lot more subtle what our biases are. So Odin, I wanted to get your take on this. Do you think that we need something like TruthGPT to fight back against companies like Google?
Yes and no. I mean, because when it comes down to like his plan, honestly, I think that he would be better to do something similar to what he did with Twitter, where instead of just creating his own social media platform, he bought another and then has retooled it, and I think has done a lot of benefit, right? Because now Twitter, you know, obviously it still has issues. No website's ever going to be perfect, but I think that as far as access to information is concerned, there are a lot less barriers to getting access to what used to be considered more controversial information. And I think that that has been a net benefit. And so to see him do something similar, and I don't know all the ins and outs of, for instance, a company or a search engine like DuckDuckGo, but to me, I think that would be a better path. Be like, okay, let me just buy DuckDuckGo, because DuckDuckGo has a lot of good things going for it, but it also was kind of got in some hot water from users, at least, when it decided to start censoring certain information, right? And they were very open about, okay, we're going to not let this type of information be accessible or easily accessible or anything like that. I think it had to do with COVID, and it had to do with like medical information, things like that. So I think that would be kind of a better path forward, because it would be able to get something already established and then to try to actually turn it into more of a free speech, you know, like kind of like a free speech platform in that way. And I think that's the big thing, is that yes, you can never really take bias out of something completely. I think that was, you know, Krimson was absolutely correct in talking about that, because it is so true. Like even the best historians who will admit this fact will always have to at the very least say, here's the kind of person that I am, though, because then you at least understand where the bias is coming from. And I think that might be the better path, is to somehow, you know, take over something and retool it just a little bit. Actually retool it, not the Marvel type of retooling, but actually retool it to be able to actually allow people to get access to information, and that any bias that might perceptibly be there be at the very least a little bit more, I guess, open or transparent, however that might actually look, whether that be having, you know, people, you know, make it almost not necessarily into a social media platform, but if imagine you do a search result, and let's say a lot of people are searching for the same thing over and over again, you can then rate your results. And then you can look and see, okay, people who, you know, you could have people who willingly choose to sign up for something, say, I identify as being more liberal, conservative leaning, whatever it might be. And then you can see, okay, people of this mindset thought that the news results skewed this way or viewed this way. And maybe let that be the way that you train your platform to try to be as more middle of the road as you possibly can. That would be, I think, a better route.
Odin, I want to ask you, because you are an educator. A lot of people are predicting that in the future, AI is going to be heavily responsible for, you know, teaching children in school, basically. And it comes down to whoever programs that AI is going to be teaching, you know, the future generations. And so a lot of what Elon is talking about, he talks about the dangers of AI in particular, and that because this future is basically inevitable at some point, the fight to control, like, you know, who's going to be training that AI, which in turn trains the next generation of human beings, is being fought right now. So I just want to get your take on the future of basically schools going completely AI.
And I think that will have a negative impact, probably first in European nations, you know, or other countries, because they might be more open to that. But also it's going to affect public schools more so than anything else, because you're never, I don't think, going to be able to get for private schools and private education, that stuff in there. And again, I guess the mindset is, well, people will just not send their kids to school, but they'll sign them up for some AI. But then again, that also requires states, countries to say that that is a legitimate way to get your degree, to get your diploma. So a lot of things actually would have to happen in order for that to actually be a legitimate path going forward. A lot of things culturally and societally would have to change. So I think that it's something where, yes, I think we should obviously be involved now. I think that's why I think Elon getting involved in the space early on is probably a good thing, because he's one of the more honest, and he's not perfect either, but at least he's one of the more honest persons out there, it seems, compared to some others. And I think that having at least one space that you have some trust in would be good. But at the same time, I think a lot of people would be very hesitant to trust their child to something that they cannot actually talk to, that they cannot actually have a real conversation with. Because that's one thing too, that, you know, the reason why people still send their kids to school, especially private schools, is because you know your teachers, you're able to communicate with them, you're able to know more about your child. And that's something where, again, AI might be able to do a lot of things, but I think there's going to be just enough of that gap where people aren't necessarily going to fully trust it.
You know, Matt Vader, in addition to announcing TruthGPT, Elon's also talking about doing his own version of Gmail called Xmail. Okay. And so like it's going to be like this bundle suite that I believe will probably integrate with the platform X.
Take my money. Take it.
Yeah, I was going to say, would you use this stuff?
Yeah, sure. I am slowly becoming a full-on Elon Musk acolyte. I ordered my robes last week. I'm waiting for them to show up. And you know, pretty soon I'm going to be getting my binder in the mail, so I can go knock door to door and I can tell people about the truth. Excuse me, sir.
Have you heard of Elon Musk?
Have you heard about TruthGPT, and can I explain it more to you? And that's where I feel like we're going in this world is we're going to have the truth, and we're going to have the Google, and it's like the dark side and the light side. And people are going to like, well, I don't use the truth. I use, what's the Google one called? That evil
Gemini.
I'm a Gemini acolyte. So you're going to have your Geminis and your truths, and we're going to, it's what the next war. That's
the Gemini acolytes are all white guys in blackface.
Yeah, it's going to be, it's crazy. I mean, that's honest to God. I really feel like some lines are being drawn, and you're either going to be a Gemini person or a truth person, and it's going to be really weird. And
it's like a real life version of Person of Interest.
It's going to be trippy, man. Yeah. So
or like me, there's a third category. You don't use either, and you have your own.
Yeah, or Team Shane.
Or Team Shane, yeah.
Yeah, you know.
The Rebel Forces.
The Rebel Forces. There we go.
I like the Heretic Shane.
Yeah. The band of rebels and savages just using Bing.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Bing's just sitting back, drinking a beer, watching the fight.
I am very curious how Elon merges all of these things together. I like what he's doing personally. But I think we got a weird future coming toward us. So it's going to be interesting how these things all interact and compete against each other and stuff. So yeah, I mean, what do you do?
Tom, you know, us in the U.S., we're entering into an election season, and Google and Bing notoriously skew their search results towards a particular, political party and candidate. And I think, Elon's not advocating for like the Fox News approach where he's like, okay, we're going to do counter programming. He's like, I just want something that's even, that shows both sides and allows people to make up their minds based off of that. So the question really becomes, how important is search in our everyday lives, and how can it influence stuff like, global politics, like local elections and things of that nature?
Can't trust the Musk melon. I don't want this search thing out there. It's going to ruin my election. People are going to see the truth. They don't need to see the truth. They need to see what they want to see. Like goats in pajamas.
Pajamas are important.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Yeah, no, I think that obviously this is going to be a big deal coming into the upcoming political season here, especially with what we saw the last couple times out, right? I mean, we've had them flat out have to admit that, oh yeah, they were manipulated. A lot of the stuff you saw on Facebook, social media, other places was definitely geared towards one direction. And I have a feeling we're going to be combating a lot of the same thing this time out. But you need somebody you need an even playing field, or somebody out there with, and I would hope that that's what Elon Musk is offering here. I mean, I'm not as tech savvy as most you guys on this panel, let alone probably everybody in the chat. But I can't see it as anything but a good thing to have. A, competition is always a good thing. B, the option to have something that may be a bit more transparent, unlike Google or Bing or some of these other search engines that are definitely influenced by a number of things, between ad revenue and the politics that are on the, of the people that are actually running the thing. Now, that's not to say that Elon couldn't allow his own personal politics to get involved, and that's something people have been afraid of when it comes to X and other things from the start. So you always have that possibility. But again, I don't see this as a bad thing. I mean, if you'd have told me way back when all we had was Yahoo and Ask Jeeves, about Google and some of the other things that we have now, like, I wouldn't have known what the hell you were talking about. But yeah, no, I like having other options. The only thing I don't like now is that Google is so proprietary. Mac is so proprietary. Certain things that are so proprietary that you're forced to have to use certain things, like the thing we're using right now, StreamYards, to stream to you guys on YouTube, which is all, YouTube is Google based, Google Chrome is Google based. StreamYard works best on Google Chrome. So it's like we're just keep feeding those monsters, right? So
let's get some competition.
Yeah, we need some competition. We need some fresh blood. We need some other options in here. It's been a while since we've had a new.
We need XYard.
Ecosia, I think, was the last new search engine that I can think of. Yeah,
but also I think a lot of people feel like, because I just looked it up just to reconfirm, and it was October 2022 when the purchase of Twitter was finalized. So we have to look at this as this is really the first major election cycle where Twitter has been unrestricted. So it's gonna be interesting to see if that has any impact. Even before, if there is nothing done with the search engine, I think that alone is going to have an impact, because so many people use Twitter almost as if it were a search engine when you're looking for news and you're looking for what's going on. So it's going to be interesting, to say the least.
Just don't dip your toe in that Taylor Swift, Kelsey arena. Those people are insane. Okay, I'm just telling you.
Yeah. Well, also, what's interesting about Elon's philosophy here is that he basically wants to make TruthGPT open source, which means that it can live on outside of like his influence and all that stuff, because people can actually see what the algorithms are doing to deliver the information and what the training is for the AI. Whereas with Google and Microsoft, that stuff is all black box. Like, nobody knows what they're doing or how it works and stuff like that. And they used to say, like, well, that's to keep people from gaming the system. But when the people inside making the stuff are gaming the system and hiding it from the public, that's where it becomes a problem. So I think it's very interesting that Elon's dipping his toe into this arena. Like, he hasn't pissed off enough people with just taking over Twitter and making it a free speech platform, but he's made some big enemies, not the least of which being Bob Iger and stuff like that, over the course of him just wanting people to be able to say what they want unrestricted. And I don't know if you guys saw the Tucker Carlson episode a week ago or something like that, where he actually interviewed a censorship expert who basically laid out that the military industrial complex, headed by former heads of the CIA and all these think tanks and stuff like that, actively, censor pretty much everything from like the mainstream media to social media in order to get the results that they want. And it was a very eye-opening kind of like look at how easily manipulated all of our informational outlets are, and it's kind of scary, actually. So, I found
his grocery store tour fascinating. It was really good.
Yeah.
They have bread.
Yeah,
look at the bread. There's bread.
It's fresh. It's fantastic. It doesn't cost a ton of money.
Yeah, I wonder.
They got Snickers. We got Snickers in Russia. Snickers. What's going on?
Whoa, that's crazy.
They got Snickers despite the sanctions, right?
Despite the sanctions. Yeah.
Didn't they take over like a Taco Bell or something over there, and they called it something else, but it's still a Taco Bell.
La Taco Bell.
La Taco Bell. Yeah, like American restaurants that I guess they left Russia or whatever.
Danny's.
They just like took over, and they're still operating the same exact way, but now they're not making any money.
The thing that made me laugh is when I heard they were showing bootlegs in the theaters off of like, you know, where they actually had like the ads for like the gambling websites and stuff like that.
Oh my God.
So can you imagine like the double bootlegs that came out of that? There was bootlegs of bootlegs probably.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Is Tucker back home yet? Is he before he gets arrested?
He's not allowed to come back.
Is that what it's going on?
No, he just has to cross the southern border on foot.
Yeah,
it's fine.
Yeah. He'll come in as a different name.
His videos are killing me. It's like in Russia, they have roads with cars that use gasoline.
It's crazy.
What's going on?
Wow.
I don't get it.
They wear pants and shoes just like
women.
us.
All right, guys. Well, we had a lot to talk about today, and we talked about it. I want to thank everyone for being here and sharing their unique insights. Odin from O&B Reviews, do you have any final thoughts, and where can people find more of you?
Yeah, my final thoughts would be we're just a couple weeks away from the Oscars, which means it's that time of year again for the Raven Awards and our boycott of the Oscars. So if you have not voted for the best and worst of 2023, check out my website, ombreviews.com. Click on Raven Awards and fill out your ballot today because it's going to be a lot of fun. And also, I had one person in the chat mention, ask where I could get a rosary, where they could get a rosary from. Also, my website, there's a rosary request tab on my website. Click on that, and then you can request one there. But find me over at OMB Reviews on YouTube, Odyssey, Rumble, and also over on Twitter as well. And thanks as always for having me.
Real quick, we got a super chat from Eric Winberg for $5. Appreciate the nuanced discussion about AI today. Interesting times. Well, you can always find the most nuanced discussions here on Salty Saturday. I can guarantee you that.
Nobody's ever called me nuanced. It's weird.
Yes. Tom Connors Jr., any final thoughts, and where can people find more of you?
Yeah, I'll be in about an hour over on the Pop Culture Minefield talking about Dune, the Spice Diver edit, as always.
I like turtles.
And
turtles.
You can find me on Midnight's Edge After Dark, and Mead Radio, and all the other fine places I pop up, like here.
Good
we
stuff.
appreciate you.
And Flashcast later as well.
Yes, the man who is on every single live stream on YouTube.
Almost
That's
every.
Tom Connors. Yeah. And
the ones I haven't been gender swapped on anyway.
Yeah.
Our special guest today, the one, the only Krimsonrogue, the literary long man himself. Krimson, you have a fantastic channel. I'd highly recommend everyone go check it out, especially if you like reading, but you don't have time to read. Krimson does it for you, so you don't have to. Any final thoughts, and where can people find more of you?
As long as those books they want to read are terrible books that they want to see torn apart. People can find more of me on Krimsonrogue. That's Crimson spelled with a K, as it says right down there. On YouTube and on Twitter. I refuse to call it X. And as far as final thoughts, thank you for having me, of course. And in regards to AI, there's a lot of doom and gloom about AI coming for the creative jobs and all that. And it might seem daunting because you can snap your fingers and an AI bot will crap out a full 300-page novel about dental floss. I don't know. The thing with AI to keep in mind, though, is that robots cannot actually capture the same spirit of art that true creatives really can. So, like all the writers and artists out there, don't let all the talk of AI get you down. You know, as long as you have that bit of yourself, your personality, your soul, whatever that you can put into your artwork, you know, you'll at least be creating something worthwhile. So take some pride in that.
I agree.
And when is your Red Wing video dropping?
Oh, Fourth Wing.
Fourth Wing, sorry.
I completely forgot to put my own stuff. Hey, not my book. I don't care. Yes, I do have about a 4.5 hour long video breaking down Rebecca Yaros's Fourth Wing. It is another book talk darling. It's some of it's good, some of it's not so much. A lot of people online seem rather divided on it. They either love it or hate it. So you get to see a more in-depth look this, if everything works out the way I want, this next weekend.
Nice. Yeah, don't Google Red Wings. That's something completely different. Brian from the podcast, any final thoughts, and where can people find more of you?
I'm disappointed that I think we're right about Deadpool, but I'm still gonna watch it. And where can you find me? On our live channel, Monday at 4 p.m. and Thursday at 4 p.m. It's Pop Culture Unleashed, and of course our main channel, The Popcast. And that's about it. This we have I have Culture Casino coming on this Monday, which is awesome. And this last Thursday, I hooked up with Matt Fowler from Foul Ball Productions. Matt K just introduced us, and that was a really fun show. So we're having a lot of people on because Shane is still recovering from his poor guy. He can barely work like a couple hours a day. So although he will be on a member stream on Monday night for the main channel, we're going to do a cold read of our next big documentary, which is about, I can't tell you what it's about, but if you remember, you'll find out.
Thoughts and prayers for Shane, everybody.
Thoughts and prayers. Send all your thoughts and prayers. Thoughts and prayers.
Yeah.
Get better, Shane.
Feeling better. All right, Matt Vader, any final thoughts, and what do we got going on this week?
What do we got going on this week? I think more Dune talk. I think that's what we got going on this week. We're watching we're all busy watching the never-ending long sci-fi Dune miniseries that came out in the year 2000 for just another different spin on the Dune material.
Why so much Dune? So, are you guys really enjoying it?
We're just kind of looking forward to the new Dune movie, and we're having fun discussions with it, Brian. It's good stuff. And Jude loves Dune, and she has a lot to say. So we're hitting it from all the angles, man. We're hitting it from all the angles. So we'll be doing that on Tuesday. You can find me here all over the Salty Nerd channel, and also I've been playing more and more games on my own channel over on here on YouTube at Matt Vader 74. So please, that's just a hobby thing I'm doing, but I'm doing more of it. So check that out over there. Give me a sub, and I think that's what we got going on. I'm not sure what else. So,
yep. And basically, I want to give a big shout out to everyone who donated during the course of the live stream today. First of all, Culture Casino gifting those 5 Salty Nerd memberships. Thank you so much for that. Also want to thank Icthulu, Mexican Iron Man, the Astro Nerd Boy, Garfield's Bizarre Adventure, and Eric Winberg for dropping those super chats. You guys are awesome. We really appreciate those things. And be sure to tune in next week. Same salty time, same salty channel. And until then, stay salty, my friends.
Salty.
I genuinely think the world went downhill when McDonald's took away the $2 sausage McGriddle off the all-day menu. Genuinely. People used to be happier. Now what? It's like $4? You used to be able to go to McDonald's at 5:47 p.m. and get a nice little sausage McGriddle for dinner for $2. Now what? It stops at 10:30? This is why people are depressed. This is why people are anxious. If maybe we could waltz up to a McDonald's at 7 p.m. and order a sausage McGriddle for $2 again, like we used to be, people would be happier. I think it would solve a lot of issues.